Imagine this. 2,000 years ago, the absolute wealthiest, most influential thinker in the entire Roman Empire was handed a completely baseless death sentence by a 27-year-old tyrant.
Right, and you'd expect him to, I don't know, freak out or beg for mercy,
Exactly, but he didn't panic at all. He didn't beg. He simply accepted it and prepared to die.
which is just wild to think about.
Right. So today we are exploring exactly why he was capable of that kind of calm and, what it actually reveals about our own daily anxieties. Welcome to the deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Our mission today is to really tear into the life and the philosophy of that man, Seneca. And specifically, we're looking at his masterpiece on the shortness of life.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out a really uncomfortable question, like, is human life actually too short, or are we just spectacularly bad at managing our most valuable asset?
That is the big question. But real quick, before we dive into all that ancient Roman drama, if you want to access more advanced researches, applications, and our latest published personal intelligent multi-agent deep value intelligence, welcome to explore and join the deepvalues.ai community.
Oh, and if you want to track the total market temperature, welcome to search and download the iOS app, Buffett Indicator, right from the Apple App Store.
Just a quick disclaimer, though, all our analysis is based on publicly available sources and may be subject to revisions or differing interpretations. All contents from this channel is for information and research purposes only and does not constitute investment advice.
Right, please conduct your own due diligence before making investment decisions. And hey, if you'd like to access wider topics, including life and investing philosophy, please subscribe to our sister channel, Deep Values.
And don't forget to like this video. Much appreciated. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we take life advice from an ancient philosopher, we really need to look at the environment that produced him.
Yeah, you have to know where he's coming from.
Right, because if you just read the quotes online, it's so easy to dismiss stoicism as, I don't know, something cooked up by a guy sitting in a quiet ivory tower, totally detached from reality.
Oh, absolutely. But Seneca's philosophy wasn't some abstract theory at all. It was literally an outright psychological survival mechanism in an environment that was, well, life or death.
That is such crucial context. His worldview was basically forged in a meat grinder.
Yeah, so Seneca was born around 4 BC, and he came from this really highly privileged, deeply educated background.
Like a rich kid, basically.
Pretty much. His father trained him extensively in rhetoric and debate, which, essentially made Seneca the ancient Roman equivalent of a massive influencer.
Oh, wow, an ancient influencer. That's a great way to put it.
Right. He was this brilliant speaker, and his ideas spread incredibly fast. But the problem is, in the Roman Empire, popularity was incredibly dangerous.
Because it made you a threat.
Exactly. It made you a direct threat to the people in power.
Which brings us back to that death sentence I mentioned earlier. So when Seneca was in his early 40s, the emperor was Caligula.
Oh, Caligula. That guy was a nightmare.
Total nightmare. He was young, wildly erratic, and just operated on pure, unfiltered paranoia. And he catches wind of Seneca's immense popularity.
And he hates it.
He hates it. Purely out of jealousy, he orders Seneca's execution. Like, there was no trial, no grand conspiracy that Seneca was a part of, just a tyrant waking up one morning and deciding, yeah, you shouldn't exist anymore.
And this is where the mechanics of Stoicism really begin to make practical sense. I mean, if you live in a society where your life can just be extinguished on a whim like that,
You realize you have no control.
right, you realize very quickly that your external circumstances are completely out of your hands. The only territory you can actually defend is your own mind.
Yeah, and the absurdity of how Seneca survived that specific death sentence just perfectly illustrates how little control anyone had.
Oh, the reason he survived is just unbelievable.
When it really is.
Yeah.
So Caligula actually cancels the execution at the absolute last minute. And do you know why? Because someone whispered in his ear that Seneca had severe asthma.
Asthma? You've got to be kidding me.
I'm serious. In ancient Rome, asthma was considered this incurable terminal condition. So Caligula just figured, well, why bother executing a guy who's probably going to drop dead from a lung disease any day now?
Wow. So his life was literally saved by a respiratory issue.
Saved by asthma. It's so deeply ironic, especially when you think about how much Seneca would later write about the sheer unpredictability of fate.
What's fascinating here is how the chaos just didn't end there. I mean, Caligula's tyrannical rule, with all the cruelty and arbitrary executions and the massive taxation for his vanity projects, it eventually pushed the whole system to a breaking point.
He got assassinated, right?
He did. But it wasn't just a random mob of angry citizens. It was the Praetorian Guard, which was his own personal security force.
Wait, his own bodyguards took him out?
Exactly.
It's really fascinating to look at the structure of that assassination, actually. The source material compares those guards to a systemic rebel group.
Oh, like what?
You can draw a pretty direct parallel to the Tiandihui.
The Chinese Secret Society.
Yeah, the one that later fought to overthrow the Qing dynasty. These Praetorian Guards weren't just disgruntled employees, they were a highly coordinated faction actively trying to dismantle the whole imperial structure.
That makes total sense. But, the imperial machine was super resilient. The royal family moved instantly to crown Caligula's uncle, Claudius, as the new emperor.
Right, damage control.
Exactly. So the rebellion is crushed, but the psychological damage to the court was permanent. Claudius's inner circle essentially became a viper's nest. Everyone was terrified, constantly looking over their shoulder, just trying to preemptively eliminate their rivals.
And Seneca, just by being this prominent, famous guy, gets completely caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, he's framed. His political rivals concocted this bizarre soap opera-level accusation that Seneca was having a secret affair with Julia Livilla, who was the new emperor's sister.
Which was entirely baseless, right?
A pure political frame-up. But Claudius didn't have the political capital or the evidence to just execute a beloved figure like Seneca outright. So he opted for the next best thing.
Exile.
Right. He banished Seneca to the island of Corsica, which back then was basically just a barren, desolate rock. And he spent 8 whole years there.
8 years. And, this is really where we see the rubber meet the road. Most people, if they were stripped of their wealth, their status, their friends, their home...
They'd spiral. They'd just fall into absolute despair.
Absolutely. But Seneca uses this isolation to completely solidify his philosophy. He even writes a letter to his grieving mother, the consolation to Helvia.
Oh, that letter is incredible.
It really is. She had endured an immense amount of tragedy in her life. And here is her son, literally banished to a rock, writing to comfort her. He tells her, that he is just living in a different place, but his mind remains entirely free.
He essentially argued that if you haven't learned to suffer, your suffering is entirely wasted.
Yeah.
Exile wasn't some horrible punishment to him. It was this profound opportunity to test his own internal fortress.
Wow.
Yeah, this wasn't just him trying to put a positive spin on a really bad situation. It was the active application of his framework. Because the core of Stoicism dictates that the universe operates on an orderly, rational set of natural laws.
So you can't control the tyrants or the false accusations.
Right, you can't control any of that. Your only responsibility is to understand those natural laws and align your own internal logic with them.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The linguistic history of those natural laws is just incredible. The ancient Greeks and the Stoics, they referred to this underlying order of the universe as logos.
Logos, meaning like reason.
Yeah, reason, the underlying narrative, or basically the fundamental operating system of reality.
It's essentially the concept of a universal source code.
Yes, a source code. And tracing how that concept travels across cultures and translations is just brilliant. Like when the Gospel of John in the Bible was originally written in Greek, it used that exact word. In the beginning was the logos.
And then in English, it became in the beginning was the word.
Right. But the conceptual bridge becomes undeniably clear when that text was translated into Chinese. In the beginning was the word, was translated as Tai Chu Yu Dao.
In the beginning was the Tao. That is amazing.
Isn't it? Logos, the word, and the Tao. They are not just loose approximations. They are pointing at the exact same human intuition. Different cultures, separated by massive geographical divides, simultaneously realizing that there is an underlying rule set to reality.
So you have Laozi in the East and Seneca in the West describing the exact same universal mechanics. You have to align yourself with the source code instead of fighting it.
Yeah, and there's a detail regarding Laozi that perfectly illustrates this, specifically from the Mawangdui texts that were unearthed in the 20th century.
Oh, I love this part.
Right. For hundreds of years, everyone quoted this famous line attributed to Laozi, Da Wan Cheng, which roughly translates to, "Great vessels take a long time to complete."
Which is usually interpreted as this standard motivational quote, right? Like, be patient, grind it out, success takes a lot of time.
Exactly. It's like the ancient version of hustle culture. But the Mawangdui texts, which are significantly older and way closer to the original source, reveal that the line was actually Da Myan Cheng.
Just a one character change.
Yeah, but that one character change completely alters the meaning. It translates to great vessels require no carving.
That is a staggering philosophical shift.
It changes absolutely everything. It means that something truly great is great by its very nature. It doesn't need to be whittled down or forced or artificially shaped to be valuable.
Which aligns perfectly with the Stoic idea of natural order.
Exactly. When you try to force the universe to bend to your will, or when you carve yourself into a shape you were never meant to be just to appease a boss or climb some social ladder, you are violating the source code.
You are creating friction, where there should be flow. It moves the whole goalpost of human existence away from this constant, anxious striving for achievement and moves it toward radical acceptance and alignment.
Which naturally brings us to the ultimate friction point. If the most unnatural thing you can do is carve away your life serving artificial constructs, then we really have to talk about how we handle the one resource we constantly carve up and give away,
Our time.
our time. Seneca laid out his most brutal critique of this in a letter to a Roman official named Paulinus.
Now, Paulinus was essentially a high-level imperial executive. If he lived today, he would be like the chief operating officer of a Fortune 50 company.
Oh, totally.
He was constantly putting out fires, managing supply chains for the whole empire, just working endless hours.
He was completely consumed by his job, and Seneca's message to him is devoid of any sympathy whatsoever. He just flatly states, life isn't short, we just waste it.
Which is such a punch to the gut.
It really is. Seneca uses this real estate analogy that hits incredibly hard.
Yeah.
He tells Paulinus that if someone tried to encroach on his estate or steal his physical property, he would take them to court. He would fight them to the death.
Because we are fiercely, violently protective of our physical wealth.
Right. We build walls, we hire guards, we lock our doors.
But when it comes to time, which is literally the only true non-renewable resource we possess, we just leave the vault wide open.
We really do.
We let anyone walk in and take handfuls of it. People demand our time. We hand it over freely, often just to avoid a slightly awkward conversation.
So to fix this, Seneca divides time into two strict categories: own time and other people's time.
Right.
Own time is true autonomy. It is the time where you are doing exactly what you actively choose to do for your own development, your own peace of mind, your own nature.
And other people's time is any time spent out of forced obligation. It's that job you only tolerate for a paycheck. It's the social engagements you attend solely for optics. It's the hours spent managing the anxieties of people you don't even really like.
Okay, but wait, I have to push back here.
Sure.
Look at Seneca's actual life. The man was the tutor and the primary political advisor to the Emperor Nero. He amassed unbelievable, astronomical wealth, serving in the highest echelons of a corrupt, brutal government.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't there a massive, glaring hypocrisy here? I mean, he is preaching to Paulinus about protecting own time while actively participating in a political machine that literally devoured people's time and lives. How do we reconcile that?
This raises an important question, and honestly, historians have debated it for centuries. He was absolutely a flawed human being trying to practice an ideal in an impossibly compromised environment.
That's fair.
But you could actually argue that his philosophy is so potent exactly because he saw the rot from the inside. He wasn't some monk meditating on a mountain. He was deep in the swamp.
He knew how bad it was.
He recognized that all his wealth and political power were ultimately worthless because they required him to operate almost entirely on other people's time, specifically Nero's time. He knew the trap intimately because he was caught right in it.
That makes the audit even more urgent, I think.
Yeah.
Because if a guy that powerful felt trapped, what about the rest of us? Let's apply this audit to daily life for a second. What if someone listening argues, look, I sleep for 8 hours a night, I'm enjoying my bed, no one is bothering me. That counts as own time, right?
Seneca's response to that is just a brutal reality check. He argues that if you are only sleeping because you are utterly exhausted from spending your entire day serving others, putting out fires, and fulfilling obligations, then your sleep is not freedom.
No.
It is merely a biological byproduct of your wasted time. It is just your body desperately attempting to repair the damage of living on other people's time. It is maintenance, not living.
Man, that reframes the entire concept of rest. He's essentially saying that most people don't start living for themselves until they are too exhausted or too old to actually enjoy it. We culturally accept this idea that we spend decades grinding, telling ourselves, once I hit retirement, then I'll actually live. Then I'll travel, I'll read, I'll do what I want.
And Seneca views the concept of retirement as the ultimate arrogance. You are betting your happiness on a currency you don't actually possess yet.
Because the future isn't guaranteed.
Right. You have zero control over the future. You cannot guarantee you will even wake up tomorrow, let alone live to see your late 60s with your health intact. Assuming you have decades left to finally start living on your own terms is a massive, incredibly risky gamble.
So if the future is an illusion we can't bet on and the present is just constantly slipping into the past, how do we actually fix this? Like, how do we stretch our lives out and make them feel long starting today?
To understand the solution, we really have to look at the mechanics of time perception. Seneca breaks time into those 3 parts: the future, the present, and the past. The future is unpredictable. The present is painfully fleeting. I mean, the second you acknowledge the present moment, it is already gone. Therefore, the only true lasting wealth you can ever accumulate in your life is the past.
The vault of memory.
Exactly. Your life's true length isn't measured by the biological years your heart kept beating. It is measured exclusively by the richness, the depth, and the volume of your memories. The past is the only thing that is locked in. It is yours forever, totally immune to the whims of fortune or tyrants.
Okay, let me challenge that metric with a modern scenario. Let's say I decide that my absolute favorite thing in the world, the thing that aligns perfectly with my nature, is playing a specific video game.
Right.
I spent 30 years sitting in my room, completely autonomous, perfectly content, just playing that one game. That is undeniably own time. I chose it. So according to Seneca, didn't I live a long, happy life?
Well, Seneca would argue you lived an incredibly short life because you fell into the trap of monotony. You have to look at how the human brain actually processes time and memory. If your last 30 years can be accurately and completely summarized in a single sentence like, I played a game in my room, then you have accumulated almost zero wealth in your memory bank.
Oh, because there are no distinct markers.
Precisely. The brain doesn't record the same routine day 10,000 times. It records it once, and the rest is just a blur. Monotony actively shrinks your internal timeline.
So that's why older people always say time flies.
Exactly. It's often because they have stopped experiencing novelty. A long life requires diverse experiences, facing different challenges, and grappling with complex ideas. When you look back and see a vast landscape of different eras, different versions of yourself, different environments and thoughts, that is how you stretch out your internal timeline.
If you look back and see one repetitive loop, your life was effectively a single day played on repeat.
Perfectly said.
So what does this all mean? The goal isn't just to hoard time, but to fill it with high-density experiences. And Seneca offers this brilliant method for doing this without having to constantly travel or seek out extreme physical thrills.
Right. He argues that the people who live the longest, richest lives are avid, curious learners. Those who study philosophy, history, and the thoughts of those who came before them.
Because when you deeply read the thoughts, the struggles, and the insights of people who lived thousands of years ago, you are essentially absorbing their memories.
And their timelines into your own mind.
Yeah, when you sit down and truly engage with Laozi or with Seneca himself, you are connecting with their consciousness. You become their friend across the boundaries of time.
You get to absorb their hard-won wisdom, their highest realizations, without having to suffer through the political exiles or the chaos they had to endure to learn those lessons.
By reading and learning, you are effectively living multiple lifetimes. You expand the boundaries of your own existence by integrating the best parts of human history into your own personal past. You are basically depositing massive amounts of wealth into your vault.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Seneca's life ultimately proved that this wasn't just rhetorical flair. He eventually realized that the Roman political machine was completely unfixable.
So he tried to get out.
Yeah, he asked Nero for permission to resign. He even offered to give his vast controversial fortune entirely back to the state just to be allowed to retire to the countryside and live quietly on his own time.
He was trying to buy his freedom.
And for a few years it actually worked. He retreated from public life and wrote his famous moral epistles. But, well, you cannot outrun a paranoid system.
Right.
When Seneca was 69 years old, Nero, who was becoming increasingly unhinged, accused him of being part of a conspiracy to assassinate the emperor. Again, no trial. Nero simply dispatched soldiers to Seneca's estate with an order to commit suicide.
It is so completely barbaric, but the incredible thing is how Seneca reacted when the soldiers arrived and handed him that order.
He didn't break down.
He didn't rage against the injustice of it all. He accepted it with complete chilling calm. He even had to comfort his own friends who were weeping at the scene.
Because he proved the very point he made to Paulinus all those years earlier. Death can arrive at any moment, even when you have done absolutely nothing wrong, even when you have retreated from the game.
Yeah.
But if you have spent your life accumulating true wealth, the wealth of a rich, deeply examined mind and profound memories, you will not be afraid when the end comes. You will be full.
He practiced exactly what he preached in his final moments. He had lived multiple lifetimes in his mind, so at 69, he felt his timeline was completely fulfilled. Which brings the focus squarely back to you, listening right now.
It really does.
It is time for the ultimate audit. Look at your calendar for tomorrow. Look at the obligations you have committed to. How many of those hours are actually yours? How much of your day is spent on autopilot, carving away your natural grain to serve other people's time, slowly shrinking the length of your life through sheer monotony?
It is honestly the most vital audit you will ever perform. You have to identify where the vault is leaking.
Absolutely. But I want to leave you with a different Slightly more uncomfortable thought to mull over today. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about the absolute necessity of protecting your own time and brutally cutting out obligations to others.
Right.
But if you actually do that tomorrow, if you ruthlessly eliminate other people's time from your life, what happens to the people around you? Does hoarding your time make you an enlightened stoic, or does it just make you incredibly selfish? Think about where that line is actually drawn.
That is a profound question.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.